I found out my wife was cheating on me because of a Bluetooth connection in my truck. That's the sentence I've rehearsed in my head about 100 times, wondering how I'd ever explain this to anyone. Not to my mom, not to my best friend Danny, not even to the divorce lawyer I eventually hired. But I'm telling you now, strangers on the internet, because somehow it's easier to tell people who don't know my face. My name doesn't matter. Let's just say I'm a 34-year-old guy from a mid-sized town in Ohio, the kind of place where everybody knows everybody's business, except, apparently, their own family's business. I work in commercial HVAC, heating and air conditioning systems for office buildings and warehouses. Steady job, good with my hands. The kind of guy who shows up early, fixes what's broken, and goes home tired but satisfied. I need you to understand something before I get into the ugly part. I was happy. Not fake happy for social media happy, genuinely, boringly, comfortably happy. I know how that sounds now, looking back, like I'm setting up some tragic irony. But I promise you, I wasn't lying to myself. I had built a life I was proud of, and at the center of that life was my wife, Melissa. We met 9 years ago at a mutual friend's barbecue. She was finishing up her nursing degree, working nights at a diner to pay her way through school, and she had this laugh that made everyone in the room turn their heads. I remember the exact moment I fell for her. She was arguing with my buddy Tom about whether pineapple belonged on pizza, and she got so worked up defending pineapple pizza that she knocked over a 2 liter of Sprite and just started laughing at herself instead of getting embarrassed. Most people get embarrassed. She just laughed. I liked that about her immediately. She didn't take herself too seriously, but she took everything else, her patients, her friends, eventually me, very seriously. We dated for 2 years before I proposed at the same lake where we'd had our third date. She said yes before I even finished the sentence, which became a running joke between us. You didn't even let me ask the question, Mel. We got married in a small ceremony, nothing fancy, because we were saving for a house instead of a wedding. And that told you everything about who we were as a couple. We weren't about appearances. We were about building something real. 7 years of marriage, no kids yet. We'd been trying for the last year and a half actually, going through some fertility testing, which is its own kind of stress I won't get into right now. She'd become a labor and delivery nurse, worked 12-hour shifts 3 or 4 days a week at the regional hospital, about 40 minutes from our house. I used to tease her that she spent her whole career helping other people bring babies into the world while we were still waiting on ours. She'd laugh, but I could tell some nights it hurt her more than she let on. I tell you all this because I need you to understand. I trusted this woman with everything. My bank accounts, my phone passcode, my mother, who has dementia and needed help most weekends. Melissa never once complained about driving out there with me, feeding her, doing her hair. I trusted Melissa with things I've never told another living soul. We had late-night conversations about our fears, our regrets, the things we hadn't told our own parents. I thought I knew this woman better than I knew myself. So when people ask me now, didn't you notice anything? Weren't there signs? I get defensive because the honest answer is no, not really. Or maybe there were, and I was too in love, too comfortable, too stupid to see them for what they were. Here's the thing about her schedule that becomes important later. Nurses on the labor and delivery floor don't work normal hours. 12-hour shifts, rotating days, sometimes nights, sometimes doubles when they were short-staffed, which, according to her, was often. I never questioned when she said she was picking up an extra shift. Hospitals are always short-staffed. That's just a fact of life if you're married to someone in healthcare. It was a random Tuesday in March when everything started to unravel, though I didn't know it yet. I want to walk you through this slowly because that's exactly how it happened to me. Slowly, in pieces, like watching a puzzle come together, except you don't know it's a puzzle until you've already got half the picture assembled, and it's staring back at you with a face you don't recognize. My truck, a 2019 Silverado, nothing special, just my work truck, Had this quirk where the Bluetooth would sometimes auto-connect to whatever phone was nearby if my own phone's Bluetooth wasn't turned on fast enough. Usually it was just my phone. Sometimes, if Melissa had been in the truck recently and her phone was still paired, it would connect to hers instead, and I'd have to go into the settings and switch it over. That Tuesday morning, I got in the truck to head to a job site, and the radio didn't come on like usual. Instead, my truck's display showed connecting to Melissa's iPhone, and then a second later, a text message notification popped up on the dashboard screen. Read aloud by the system in that flat robotic voice, new message from contact, Ryan G. Message reads, "Can't stop thinking about last night. You're gonna get me in trouble, LL." I remember sitting there in my driveway with the engine running, staring at the dashboard like it had just spoken a foreign language. Ryan G. I didn't know a Ryan G. I ran through every name I could think of. Coworkers she'd mentioned, guys from nursing school, her cousin's husband, anybody. Nothing clicked. My first instinct, and I'm almost ashamed to admit this because of how naive it sounds now, was that it must be a wrong number. Or maybe a coworker joking around about a late shift last night, meaning some work thing, some inside joke I wasn't part of. That's how deep the trust ran. My brain worked overtime to construct an innocent explanation before it would even consider the obvious one. I didn't say anything to her that morning. I told myself I was being paranoid. I went to work. I fixed a rooftop unit at a Wendy's off Route 9 and thought about pipe fittings and refrigerant levels and tried not to think about the words "last night" and "you're gonna get me in trouble." But it sat in my stomach like a stone all day. That night, Melissa came home from her shift around 7:30, tired like always, still in her scrubs with her hair pulled back in that messy bun she always had after a long day. She kissed me on the cheek, grabbed the granola bar from the pantry, and asked how my day was. I said fine. I asked about hers. She said busy. They'd had 2 emergency C-sections back to back. She was exhausted. I watched her say all this with the same face she'd had for 7 years. Nothing different, nothing off, no flicker of guilt or nervousness. And that unsettled me more than if she'd seemed suspicious, because it meant either I was wrong or she was very, very good at this. I didn't ask about Ryan G that night. I told myself I needed more information first, that confronting her with one out-of-context text message would just make me look crazy and paranoid, especially given how much we'd both been stressed about the fertility stuff. Maybe it really was nothing. Maybe I was about to blow up my marriage over a coworker's inside joke. So I did something I'm not proud of, but I don't regret either. I started paying attention, really paying attention, for the first time in years, to the small details of my wife's life that I had stopped noticing because comfort makes you lazy about noticing things. I noticed she'd started taking her phone into the bathroom when she showered, propped on the counter, in case the hospital calls. I noticed she'd added a passcode to her phone about 6 weeks earlier. Something she said was just a hospital policy thing now, HIPAA stuff, which sounded plausible enough that I hadn't questioned it at the time. I noticed she'd started going to the gym more, a new gym across town, one that was nowhere near either of our jobs or our house, which she explained by saying they had better hours for her shift schedule. I noticed, looking back through my memory like flipping through photographs, that over the last 2 or 3 months, she'd seemed happier, in a way that didn't quite connect to anything happening in our actual life together. Lighter. Distracted, but pleasantly distracted. The way you get when you have a secret you're enjoying. At the time I remembered thinking, with a kind of pathetic relief, good, she needed something for herself. The fertility stuff has been so hard on her. I'm glad she found a hobby. God, I make myself sick thinking about how understanding I was being. How supportive. While she was out there, well, I didn't know exactly what out there meant yet. That's the part that came next. 2 days after the Bluetooth incident, I was cleaning out the truck, vacuuming the floor mats, wiping down the dash, the kind of Sunday chore I do every couple of weeks, and I found a receipt wedged down in the crack of the passenger seat, not mine. A restaurant I didn't recognize, some place called the Amber Room, which I later found out was this upscale little bistro about 25 minutes outside of town, way out past where either of us would normally have any reason to go. The receipt was dated 2.5 weeks earlier, a Wednesday, 1:47 p.m. lunchtime. 2 entrees, a bottle of wine, paid in cash, no card trail, which even then struck me as strange because Melissa almost never carried cash. Wednesday, 1:47 p.m. I checked my memory against her schedule. She told me that Wednesday she was picking up a double, wouldn't be home till almost midnight. I remembered because I'd eaten a frozen pizza alone and fallen asleep on the couch, watching some documentary about deep sea creatures, and she'd woken me up when she got home, apologizing for how late it was, saying the floor had been an absolute zoo. I sat in my driveway with that receipt in my hand for probably 20 minutes. I want to be honest with you about what that felt like, because I think people who haven't been through this can't really understand it. It wasn't like a single moment of shattering. It was more like, you know how sometimes you're driving and you go over a pothole, and for a split second the whole car just drops and your stomach goes with it? It was that feeling. Except it didn't stop. It just kept dropping, and I kept waiting for the bottom, and there wasn't one. I didn't confront her that night either. I know, you're probably yelling at your screen right now. Just ask her, you idiot. Rip the Band-Aid off. And believe me, I wanted to. Every fiber of my being wanted to walk into that house, throw the receipt on the counter, and demand an explanation. But something in me, some instinct I didn't even know I had, told me that if I confronted her now, with just a text message and a receipt, she would have an explanation ready. She was a smart woman. She'd talk her way around it, and I'd never know for sure, and I'd spend the rest of my life wondering if I'd been the paranoid husband who blew up his marriage over nothing. I needed to know, really know, not suspect, know. So that Sunday night, after Melissa fell asleep, she always fell asleep fast after a long shift, dead to the world by 9:30 most nights. I sat downstairs at our kitchen table with a legal pad and a pen, and I started writing down everything. Every date she'd worked a double, every late night, every new habit, every excuse. I built a timeline, like some kind of amateur detective, because that's exactly what I was about to become. I had no idea, sitting there at that kitchen table at 11:47 p.m., with my wife asleep upstairs, just how deep this rabbit hole was going to go, or how much I was going to learn about the person I thought I knew better than anyone else on earth. I just knew one thing for certain. My marriage, the one I'd been so sure of, so proud of, was not what I thought it was, and I was about to find out exactly how wrong I'd been.